I'm going to do a little recap. So what it came down to was my starter, I call it a Bendix wheel or gear, Bendix gear. That gear is not, it's popping up, but it doesn't have enough force behind it. I don't know if it's the starter itself, or from what I can tell, this gear is spinning too easily in the reverse direction. It's supposed to almost like ratchet, like spin in one direction and lock in the other. And I can spin it in both directions while I'm holding the nut up here. It's not just the shaft spinning with it. So I'm gonna take this cover off eventually, probably tomorrow, because I'm running out of daylight. I'm gonna try to have my starter tested. Since I have it taken off, I'll probably go by my brother-in-law's work tomorrow on my way home and have him test it to see if the starter's good. If not, the starters aren't that expensive. I think this is the solenoid. I'm gonna look it up again, but the solenoid, I don't know. We're gonna have it tested too. What I do is I take photographs of everything before I disconnect. So I'll take photographs of that, of the order that the battery cable's coming in, the nut, the washer, the other nut there. Then I don't know where that's going. This one's going to, but anyway, I'll make sure I put that back in the same order. There are some screws underneath. I'll put those back in the same way. I'll check to see how well they're done, because somebody redid all these probably not too long before I bought it, but they used some kind of black, let me see if I can get it to focus on it, this black tar stuff to seal them up, which is fine, but it seems like this black tar stuff is now dried up and it's just a hard plastic, and it just seems to be slipping off and coming off, falling apart. So I'm gonna check all these fittings anyway as well. I'll check all those connections, clean up any kind of connections. This is a good chance for you to go in and clean the bottom out. You know, a little bit of the front of my carburetor, I don't know what causes it, but a little bit of fuel gets behind the gasket. There's a gasket that sits on the carburetor, sits behind the carburetor box, the air box, and then the air box goes on, and that's your air intake on the bottom there. It's really hard to see it, but the air intake comes in from the bottom there. On the back, that's where that gasket goes, in between the air box and the carburetor. So what I do after I've taken things apart, I will put this screw back in, this one back in, this one back in. I put this nut back in, this nut and bolt back in. I put this back in place. On the starter itself, I put this back into its location. I screwed this bracket back on. I'm missing a piece. I saw there was a spacer, it looked like a plastic spacer that sat in between this. I guess it's just to make sure you don't over tighten that. I'm not sure the purpose, but that's where that ground wire broke off. So I'm going to take that ground wire off and make a new one. Find a gauge wire. The wire actually looks like it may have been melting a little bit, probably because of arcing. It's really hard to see down in there, but this is the wire right here. So it grounded to that side of that. I'm not sure what the purpose of it. Maybe it grounds the motor. Now that may have been my whole problem, and I don't know. So I'm looking for that spacer. It's the only thing I don't have, because everywhere else I took something off, I've got it back in place. And another thing I want to look at is, like I said before, I have the screw for this, but I don't know why it's not threading back in. Every time I've put it back in, it comes out, it loosens up throughout the day, and then it's either laying down in the cowling or it's real loose. And so I figured I'd just take it out for now. I haven't had it in the last 4 or 5 times I used the motor, but I don't know, maybe I can put some JB weld on the end of it and thread it in and then leave it, let it dry. And I'm not sure if JB weld will weld to the motor or weld to the screw, because if I ever had to take it out, I'd have to break that JB weld. Maybe it would leave threads in there, I don't know. Maybe it would actually create me a new threaded part of the engine block there. I don't know what it would do, what side it would stick to. But that's it. And what else I did was instead of leaving my tools out here, because I've done it before, you don't get back to it for 3-4 days, and now you've got rust spots all over the boat. So I just threw everything I was using right back in that toolbox. And one other thing is I have been charging my battery, and there's the charger. Let me see if I can get it to focus on that. Fully charged, 100%. This is a great little charger. If you don't have one, look into this one. It's a really neat charger. It was $100 though. It's like $74, or I mean, yeah, $94 or something like that. But don't leave it outside. It is not waterproof, the charger. Even though it may look it, it's not. Alright, well, always something, huh? Well, I'm going to take the starter and the solenoid. I'm going to take the solenoid off. I'm going to have to get some flashlights out here. Take it off. And my brother-in-law will probably know how to test that starter right off the bat, but we may have to look up to see how to test the solenoid to see. I'm not sure. There are videos on it, so maybe I'll try it myself. That's it. I'll do some, I'm going to try to get a tripod so I can videotape when I'm doing things, because there's no point of me telling you if I'm not showing what I'm doing at the same time. It's a little better that way. But I think you get the idea of what I'm doing here. Anyway, thanks for watching.